Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in one more time to Frederics Mates. And last episode, I was looking forward to you, Frederic, talking about Mr. Garry Kasparov. But I made a mistake. Of course, let us continue in the order when you meet the world chess champions. And someone not significantly larger was sneaking in between Mr. Kasparov, who also starts with a K. Of course, it is Anatoly Karpov. My fault. But Frederic, you met Anatoly Karpov. When was that the first time?
It's very difficult for me to remember exactly when. I think he came to Hamburg in the early 1980s, and he was promoting some chess computer, one of these desktop things. And they had some event, and I went there, attended it, and I got to know him. And we became friends very quickly, and we were friends for a long time, and ever since, actually.
Hmm.
Now, our friendship was slightly strained for a long time. Why? Because I was clearly supporting his rivals. First, Kasparov. I was there in his camp and looking after him and rooting for him, obviously. And then Anand. So Anatoly was a little bit defensive, but he was never aggressive or anything.
How is that? Is this kind of his character, which is part of this? He understands that there are some friends of his who are also friends with his, let's say, greatest rivals or great rivals, of course. Was this something he was capable of dealing with, or did you push it into the right direction and going like, listen, I
Well,
like you?
it was not just friendship with his rivals, but I was supporting them. I was accompanying Kasparov to his matches. I was feeding him information and games and so on. And Anand, I accompanied to his match against Karpov in Zurich, was it? No, in Lausanne, somewhere in Switzerland. And we flew there together and we arrived there together. And I was clearly on his side and trying to get him to win against Anatoly. So, it was slightly strained, but it was very interesting. He would talk to me. He would be a little bit cold towards me, hello, good day, and that was it. But I found a way to always get him, which was to mention some technical subject. And then he would immediately say, "You really, they can do that now? And wow, this is great." And then we'd end up sitting in a cafeteria for hours chatting about some technical development. So he's very inquisitive about, well, electronics and technical things.
I understand. Now, what was one of the most significant experiences you had together with Anatoly Karpov?
Well, I had a lot of them, but let me start. Once, I think it was 1981 or something. I traveled with him, and no, it was later. It was much later. I traveled with him to Lausanne. We had to fly to. I flew to Zurich and met Karpov and Kasparov together.
Mm-hmm.
Now Garry had just become world champion, so it was 1986 or something, and they were forcing him. FIDE was forcing him to conduct a immediate rematch against Karpov. And there was hostility about that.
Mm.
And Campomanes invited us all to Lausanne. And I met the two of them in Zurich. We all arrived at the same time, and there was a FIDE car. And it took us to Lausanne. Now, it was quite amusing. What happened was they were dead tired, exhausted from their flight, and they had hardly slept the night and so on. And I was sitting in front and they're sitting in the back. And so
Are both
just,
of them in the same car?
yeah,
Oh,
of
okay.
course, they were in the same car. And so I thought, how can I entertain them? And I said, Gary, there's this game that begins with 1e4 and ends in move 5 with knight takes rook mate. Can you tell me the moves? And he said, well, what is this, Fred? Some kind of a puzzle or what? We don't have time for this kind of thing. And they both just stared out of the window sullenly. And then after about 5 minutes, Gary turns to me and looks at me and says, is it 5 moves later or on move 5? So he'd been thinking about it. And Karpov immediately says, no, obviously on move 5, because if it is move 6 by white, there are many different solutions. So both of them were thinking about this very intensely. And then we arrived in Lausanne, and we were in a hotel together. And at some stage, Gary came to me and said, you are occupying the 2 greatest chess minds in the world with your stupid puzzle, and asked me to tell him the solution. I didn't, but that's not the point. Karpov didn't work anymore on it. I don't remember if he did. But there was a very interesting occurrence there. We had dinner together one evening, and this was unusual because they were supposed to be enemies.
Yeah.
And they spent 2 or 3 hours talking to each other and discussing the problems and making friends to some degree.
Wow.
I didn't catch much of what they were saying or anything of what they were saying because it was all in Russian. And then I invited them the next day I invited Anatoly to come to Gary's room to play some cards. I asked him, do you like cards? And he said, yes, I'm an expert in cards. So he turned up next day in Gary's room. And
unbelievable.
I said, okay, let me teach you a new game. And it's called Black Mariah. Now, this is the game which now is available in a version in Microsoft Windows. It's called Hearts, where you have to avoid taking tricks with hearts. But if you get the Black Mariah, I think it's the Queen of Spades, then you lose a lot of points unless you take them all. If you get all the hearts and the Black Mariah, the others are all penalized. And they said, okay, interesting. And I said, now there's a trick in this game. I will win all the time. And they said, how can you win? And Anatoly said, come on, I'm an expert in cards. There's no way you can win. And then we played, and I still have the score sheets, and I'll send you one.
Yes, please.
And we played and played and played. And what happened was Gary kept going for the slam, which is getting all the hearts and the Black Mariah. And Anatoly played very strategically. And it was just like their chess,
Funny.
And, but the interesting part was I kept winning, of course. And why? Because I had a couple of years of practice in the game. Nigel Short had shown it to me, and I'd played with the British players, John Nunn, Nigel Short, and so on. And we had played hundreds of games, literally. So you just get very good at it, and they were just beginners. So that was interesting.
Wow.
Now, there are 2 little things that happened there. One is that while we were playing, the television news was running, and suddenly we stopped and we looked because the Challenger had crashed, had exploded.
Oh my goodness.
And so I will never forget when exactly that happened. And if you want to find out when we were playing Black Mariah, you just look up when did the challenger explode.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat there and we were stunned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
second interesting thing was there was a knock at the door suddenly once, and it was Campomanes, the president of FIDE. And he came in and he saw Anatoly and he said, Anatoly, I've been looking all over for
I
you.
didn't expect you here.
He didn't. He looked all over the hotel, everywhere, but not in Kasparov's room. So, this was it.
That is awesome. I love this story
So
so much.
these are the little stories I had.
Can I ask you one quick question, Frederic?
Yeah.
Now, not very long ago, there was like this accident of Anatoly where he supposedly fell.
A couple of weeks ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
A week.
Yeah. Did you have any contact about this with him? No.
No, they haven't replied to my email.
Gotcha.
I don't have very intense contact with them, but no reply yet. And I have no idea what happened.
Okay.
It looks like they say he was drunk and fell. I've never met him drunk.
Huh.
I mean, he drank a little bit of alcohol, but I've never met him dead drunk or anything. And it sounds very much like, some attack on him. And then, of course, authorities can say, oh, he just was drunk and he fell. But I don't know. I can
Yes,
only
of course.
speculate.
Of course, of course. Okay, but that was something which was on my mind, of course, because we had this schedule with talking about him, and then that very recently happened. Yeah. Yes.
A couple of other things I need to tell
Please,
you about Anatoly.
go on. Go ahead.
I went to Groningen to support Anand in his candidates match. And he played and played for weeks, and it was a knockout. In the end, he knocked out Adams. Yeah, I think Adams was the final. And then we put him into a plane, and we went to the final in Lausanne. And Anand was exhausted after weeks of chess, intense chess. And he arrived there, and the next day he had to play against Anatoly Karpov, who was daisy fresh, preparing. And I was there supporting him. And Anand still almost beat him, but then he collapsed in the end. And that's where I had the most confrontational encounters with Karpov, of course, because he would look away from me and he would treat me as a hostile part of the opponents. And the second thing was Anand told me something very interesting. He said, when you play against Anatoly, if he blunders on the board, he smiles and gets up and starts watching other games and walking around, and you have no idea. I don't like this guy. He's very sly. On the other hand, if Kasparov blunders on the board, he gets up, goes to the wall, and starts bashing his head against it. And you're sitting there wondering, what is wrong? What did he do wrong? And you're looking for he said, this is the difference between the characters of, or the playing style, or the actions of Karpov and Kasparov.
Yeah, there it shows once again, not only in hearts and not only in their chess playing, also in those incidents.
They were so different. And Alexander Rorschach, the great chess journalist, he told me about this. He said he met Karpov when Karpov was 11 years old, and he played some blitz games against him in public, and he was a great teacher. And he said, and there was this 11-year-old boy who had to sit on telephone books because he couldn't reach the back rank. And the first game he won. So I said, you see, not bad. And what did I do wrong to students and so on? And he played another game and he lost again. And he said the difference was when these prodigies come normally, they sacrifice, they're tactically brilliant and so on. This kid wouldn't give up a single pawn. He just rolled over me very carefully and methodically, which describes also his playing style in many ways.
Indeed. Thank you so much for this lovely episode. Very, very interesting. And once again, I had no idea. It's always really, really amusing. Thank you, everybody, for your comments and for your likes, and that you are enjoying this so much as I do. And well, now I can finally say the right sentence. We will see each other very soon and talk about nobody else than Mr. Garry Kasparov. Thank you, Frederic.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye bye.